The next match is the WWF Tag Team Champions Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake, known as the Dream Team, with their manager Johnny Valiant against the British Bulldog.
I didn't realise that the British Bulldogs, there was a tag team.
Yeah.
Very agile compared to everybody else in the ring, it seems.
Dynamite Kid is there, and Dynamite Kid he's the greatest wrestler of the 80s. No, that's an idiotic thing to say. He is my favourite wrestler of the 80s. He had a very hard life, partly because of the way that he wrestled. In 81 and 82, he is wrestling the original Tiger Mask, and he puts Tiger Mask on the map because their matches are so state-of-the-art. They're beyond anything the world's ever seen before.
Right.
They are some of the few matches you can watch from the early part of the 80s that are every bit as good as any match you'd ever see today.
Right.
They are astonishing. They're all on YouTube. Dynamite Kid, he was doing what no one else was doing. He paid for that. He destroyed his back. You can see it in this match. There's a point where Greg Valentine runs into him at the end, and Dynamite Kid just goes off the top rope and onto the floor. He was doing that on a nightly basis. He's in terrible pain. Within 6 months, his back just totally collapses when he's running across the ring. That's all it takes.
Wow.
It just collapses. He is done. He was taking pain pills to cope with the pain, and he was also taking huge amounts of steroids. Dynamite Kid is really the textbook. This is how wrong it can go. It's made so much worse by the fact when you watch him in the ring, there was nobody who could go like the Dynamite Kid. He'd spent a number of years in a wheelchair.
But that's the thing. I guess if you're not Hulk Hogan or you're not The Rock, or you can't afford the level of care for a functioning wrestler. Effectively, and you do have to turn up the pain pills.
I think he probably spent an awful amount of his money on pain medication and getting hooky prescriptions and this, that, and the other. There is a video of him that was made by Satoru Sayama, who is the original Tiger Mask. They hadn't spoken for 20 years, and a Japanese film crew goes to find Billington, and they deliver a video message from Sayama. And it's really, really nice, but Sayama, I'm not sure what he's been told. I think he's been told that Dynamite Kid is in a coma. And Dynamite Kid isn't in a coma. Dynamite Kid has had a stroke and is just very impaired. And he sends the video message. He says, "Tommy, you are strongest man. You are the man with the strongest spirit." It's really nice. And then he gets his Tiger Mask out, and he puts it on, and he says,
"Hi, Tommy. Remember? Wake up. Hi, Tommy, wake up. Let's get fighting."
Oh dear.
And it cuts back to Dynamite, who there's no expression on his face. I don't know what he's making of it.
It's in a coma, mate.
If you ever want to see a very, very unwell man being threatened by a cartoon tiger on an MPEG, you've got to watch it. It is worth noting there was
promotional consideration paid for by the following: Wolverine for your NES, Battle Magneto and Sabretooth with your Adamantium claws and Berserker range in the X-Men battle of all time. Wolverine from LJN. Sugar Daddy. Some things never change. Sugar Daddy has the flavor which lasts a lifetime. Iron Cologne. Rugged. Sexy. Distinctively masculine. Pump some iron today.
Hour 9, we're in the third venue. This is the Los Angeles Sports Arena. It is never-ending, Pete. I mean, it felt like it was forever. They bring out Elvira, the most 80s celebrity of all time.
I mean, I was a big fan.
Sting and Sid Vicious battled for the heavyweight title in Halloween Havoc 90. And this year, it's going to be bigger and better than ever.
I don't remember her at all.
Do you not? Maybe because she had
really?
video games as well. I'm trying to think what she would be over here. I'm thinking maybe. Do you remember when they used to do Spooky Night on Channel 4 and you'd get Emily Booth doing oh, I'm a bit sexy and spooky.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think she was that kind of character. She would introduce spooky films, and then she was in a couple of spooky films as well.
She's actually really good in this because she goes into it with a sort of sense of this is all fun and gaudy, and she's obviously a pro.
Yeah.
Did you look at her Wikipedia?
No, I don't know much about her.
Oh, well, she lost her virginity to Tom Jones.
Is that right?
Yeah, she said she needed stitches because he was an aggressive lover.
Wow, that's something, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Can't lie below almost dead.
In the 80s... I'm going to turn my chair around. Why are you doing that? So you have somewhere to sit because there's a lot of blood loss.
Oh, no. Good Lord, Marc Haynes.
That was not Marc Haynes, that was Tom Jones.
Oh, right, sorry. The Grayson Perry of wrestling.
Adrian Adonis versus Uncle Elmer.
This Adonis chap, I like the perfume gimmick, and I like the fact that he is fucking massive, but he does slapstick so well. He falls out of rings in the funniest way I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
It really made me laugh.
He was a really good wrestler. He had a biker gimmick originally, but he's known as being one of the great wrestlers.
Right.
He did this gimmick. No one's quite sure whether he's being punished or something.
Right.
But he does it really well.
Really
he's one of those guys who physically is just brilliant.
Yeah.
He didn't get that size until really late in his career, and everyone was like, you're lazy, you're a slob. But he is brilliantly watchable. He's also up against Uncle Elmer.
Right.
And Uncle Elmer is appalling. He is so... he looks like a massive baby that's homeless, right? He makes me feel ill. And he comes in, and Adrian Adonis is there, and he starts doing like an effeminate hand flap. And I was looking at that, and I was thinking, if anyone sort of saw me watching this, a big, fat, baby-like hillbilly doing the ooh, ducky hand thing, well, there's a man dressed in what looks like a shower curtain going, ooh. You know, is it any wonder that people think it's squalid and pathetic? Anyway, I started looking into Uncle Elmer, and he's hilarious. He's a guy called Stan Frazier. In this match, right, he's 48. That's 7 years older than I am, okay? He looks like he's 70, but he is notorious in wrestling. He's the biggest con man that ever lived. So he used to spend his entire time selling hooky Rolexes to the other wrestlers. He had a shoe store, and he'd turn up at every venue with a van full of shoes that he'd try and sell to people as they were coming out.
Oh, my days.
And my favourite one is once he asked King Kong Bundy to walk on him, and King Kong Bundy did. And then Stan Fraser took some old x-rays where he'd had a broken rib into the office and said, King Kong Bundy walked to me and broke my ribs, can I have some money? You know, just a really... There's one guy who has a website called plowboyfraser.com. The FAQ is brilliant because the opening question is just, is Uncle Elmer dead? Yes.
Are you happy about that?
I'm not unhappy.
But the Rolex keeps ticking.
The Rolex. And then we get the main event, which is Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy in a steel cage match.
In a cage. There's some cutting in there.
There's a little thing that Hulk Hogan does with Mean Gene where he's in the gym, and they keep mentioning, for some reason, the doctor who's there, who's a guy called Dr. Bob Ponovich. He keeps going, Dr. Bob Ponovich has told me I shouldn't go into the ring tonight. And Dr. Bob Ponovich sort of goes, that's exactly right, Hulk. I think it's really bad. Dr. Bob Ponovich is a real doctor in WWE, and he's still there today.
Oh, wow.
And I did notice the only thing you can really find out about him online is in 1995 someone tried to sue him because he had a funny hair plug business and the person wasn't happy with how their hair turned out. I think that Hulk Hogan might have had hair plugs.
I mean, look at his hair in this one. It's almost gone.
It is. And this guy who made the complaint against the doctor who we see in this in 1995, what he says sounds very much like Hulk Hogan's hair. He says, mine looks like Barbie doll hair. The hair is hard and feels terrible.
It's not even the look, it's just the feel.
Oh, it's very painful. He had to have lots of operations.
I think at this point in WrestleMania, even though this is the main event, I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore, to be honest.
As a kid, I thought King Kong Bundy looked massive, and he was like the fattest person I'd ever seen in my life. I've seen fatter people than him. I really have. He
actually has quite a youthful face, Bundy.
He does. I think he was quite young then. I don't think he's that old now. He blades in this match. Vince McMahon had told Hogan not to blade. I think it was all part of him being Superman. You couldn't see him bleeding.
Right, okay.
And so Bundy had to do that.
There's a really kind of redacted bit where he does it, because I think his assistant comes on and puts his in and sort of goes, oh, are you alright?
It's a very boring match. There haven't been very many cage matches as main events, and that's because the slow climb out of the cage while Bundy is crawling for the door, it doesn't really make sense. Go through the door, run through the door. Bell goes, through door, done. And it's the wrong main event.
The cage is too solid for me, and the camera angles don't treat it very well.
They made the cages like that so it could be filmed better for TV.
Right.
So in the NWA, they've still got the sort of classic chain link fence. It's a sort of classic Hogan match. It's not very exciting. It's not very interesting. It follows a formula. The only thing I really liked about it is that I read a recent interview with King Kong Bundy, and he was talking about it. In a way, he's a strange person to have had a WrestleMania main event. There are a lot of people on the card who were bigger. The nicest thing is that Bundy, in this recent interview, he was talking about what he did afterwards, and it's so different from the modern world. And he said, after I finished the match, I went out for a really nice dinner. Isn't that nice? And then I caught a flight to the next town. The constant churn. At this time as well, I suppose, we're looking at WrestleMania. It wasn't special. It only becomes special for the wrestlers when they've grown up watching it. So you have to wait sort of almost 12, 13 years before people are excited about being on WrestleManias. For them, it's just another night in a long chain of dates they can't see the end of. Heartbreaking. It also ends with one last thing, which is Bobby Heenan, the manager. To see him again, I was like, oh, there's Bobby Heenan. And Hulk Hogan kicks the shit out of him. And I felt really sad.
He is the one who's instigated all the trouble. And this is payback time.